Great marriages aren't built by people who know everything about each other. They're actually built by people who never stop being curious.
People stop being curious often when they stop dating and the marriage starts to happen. We just get comfortable, get used to each other, but we forget that you can be married to the same person for many years, but really experience them as a different person.
So how do we continue to be a student of our spouse?
All right, let's get into it.
Oh, don't you know it's Carl and Heather present Marriage Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Heather and I are back at it. We just finished a study through the book of Ephesians. And if you were with us for the previous 5 weeks, you know that we did a couples study through the book of Ephesians. We think it's very important to study the Lord's word, and even if you can, to do it as a couple. So we have a resource there for you. If you weren't able to do it, you're just getting started with the podcast. Couple study through the book of Ephesians. We have a couples guide for you there. You put your email address in at carlandheather.com, and we will send you the couples guide through the book of Ephesians. That's a great resource for you. Another resource, we want to pray for you. If you are struggling, you need help, you're hurting, you need just somebody to partner with you for your marriage, please reach out to us and let us pray for you. It's hi@carlandheather.com. You can send us your prayer requests at that email address, and we promise we're praying for marriages all the time, and we would love to pray for yours.
If you would like to invite us to come and speak at your conference, church, event, you can do that through the website as well. So just go to carlandheather.com and look us up under booking information there, and you can find out everything you need to know there. And then last, if you have listened to the podcast and it has encouraged you, or somebody that's been on the podcast has encouraged you specifically in your marriage, would you do us a big favor? It would really help us if you would like and subscribe wherever you listen. And really what that does is that helps us to get the podcast out and people to access it who may not be hearing it now or listening. So like and subscribe. It'd be a great help to us.
All right, back to school time.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of August.
Okay, let's stop and talk about how we're very different. We talk about differences. So one of the things I think we need to talk about is back to school feels very different. We're not in school anymore, okay? So we need to just say that. It's not like we're going back to school.
Yeah.
But tell me how you feel when you hear that first back to school advertisement, commercial, here's new binders or pencils or backpacks.
Yeah, I remember even seeing it like in marketing things when I was a child. And I would try to avoid them, you know, because I mean, it's a big time to sell things, you know, and even back when I was a little kid in school, there would always be this catalog that would come in the mail, and it would be like back to school. And then there was a pit that would come into my stomach. And I just thought, oh my gosh, summer has not lasted long enough.
Yeah.
Why do I have to endure this again? Over and over it comes every year. So I hated back to school.
Yeah.
It was the worst because I hated a lot of the parts of school, especially when I was in elementary school and a little kid.
Yeah.
But you, on the other hand.
I was different. I could not wait to get, well, you know, this is going to date me, but I could not wait to get a new Trapper Keeper and new pencils.
Which, for the uninformed, was a popular kind of notebook that we had.
It's just a notebook that held together with Velcro, which was awesome. I still don't know why we don't have them.
Velcro had recently been invented back then.
Yeah.
And we were,
But you could get new Trapper Keepers with pictures of unicorns or kittens and scratch and sniff stickers and new pencils and pens and notebooks. And I just wanted to be prepared. And I love the idea of walking into school on that first day, and I had everything that I needed for school. So we're very different in that standpoint.
I'm glad you brought up scratch and sniff stickers, because we don't have those anymore. But what if those were the thing that was keeping all of the people our age from having a peanut allergy. You take the scratch and sniff stickers away, then people start having peanut allergies.
I think all the crunchy mamas out there listening would probably say there's a lot of other things that go along with
what's
that.
a crunchy mom?
A crunchy mom. We're going to get flagged for all this. I'm not going to go in there. I was going to say non-vaxxer, all the different things. Like you're like crunchy. You do everything more natural. You're homesteading. You're that kind of thing.
Oh, you're making your own clothes.
You are. You're not taking
You're
antibiotics.
selling some essential oils.
Right. Essential oils instead of antibiotics.
Crunchy mom.
It's a compliment.
What
it's
are
not.
you?
It's not a. I am.
What kind of mom are you?
I got a foot in both camps.
Oh, really?
I like if I've got strep throat, give me a good antibiotic. But I'm not necessarily going to the doctor every time I cough.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
probably foot in both camps. Anyway,
You do like chips.
I do. Yeah.
Crunchy in that way.
Crunchy. Yeah. The thing that I think that's interesting about back to school that relates to what we're talking about today in marriage is being a student of your spouse. And what if we treated our spouse like we do school as a good student? Okay. We should say that. I should clarify
Absolutely.
and say that.
Yes.
What if we said, hey, students or school's never out for the pro. The person who wants to master something has to constantly say, I'm a student of this thing. And we do that really in every area. We do that in work if we want to continue on in our work. We do it a lot in parenting. We do it in maybe a specific field we're interested in, fitness, health, things like that. But for some reason, I feel like marriage gets the back seat.
Well, and it's never an excuse to say like, well, I'm just not a good student or I don't like school.
Right.
That may be true, but for your marriage, you actually have to. I know this is an unpopular like way of going about it, but you kind of got to suck it up, buttercup, because if you want to grow, if you want the thing that's the most valuable relationship in your life, if you want it to work, you have to figure out a way to become a good student. You may not, you may not be a self-identified like good student, but you have to become committed to your spouse and to get to know your spouse and to realize your spouse is changing over time. And you got to keep learning how they are.
Yeah. I think that's the thing to remember is that the person that you married, we've been married almost 28 years now, next month. And I'm a very different person than I was when we first got married. I have had so many different seasons of life that have happened to me that you are loving and learning a different person than you did 27 years ago. And same for me. So we have to stop assuming that we're married to the same person. It doesn't matter. You might have been married a year. You've married a different person. We changed a lot in our first year of marriage.
People change when they get married.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like all of a sudden you feel like this pressure is off, so to speak,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I think the question I would ask me or you, I would ask is that when's the last time we've discovered something new about each other? It's an interesting question.
You have a new dress.
I do have a
see
new
that.
dress.
Looks
Yeah.
very nice.
Thank you.
It's a good one.
Thanks.
But discovering something new about each other. When's the last time you knew that? And there is always something new to learn. But the thing that's the path of least resistance is just to presume and assume that really kind of all there is to know. We can predict patterns and behaviors, and I think it's sort of like this both and. But the minute we're like, I've got this person figured out, I've got her figured out, I know exactly what she's going to do. That's probably the red flag moment. It's like, no, you don't. You can't know everything. And it's like, the famous love passage from 1 Corinthians 13, everyone had in their wedding. We've talked about it so many times about loving somebody. But then the back few verses, like verse 9 from 1 Corinthians 13, it goes like this, talking about love. It's all in this segment. It says, verse 9 says, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears." Then it goes on to say, verse 12, "For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. but then we will see face to face. So there's a day when we will know everything. But for right now, I think the posture of love is always curious. Curiosity is one of the best forms of love. I learned that from you. The danger is believing that I know everything about you. I've got you figured out. You're predictable.
Right. So if we're curious about each other and we stay curious about our spouse, it's kind of like this idea that I would say I naturally, and maybe we all naturally are critics of each other. Like, well, you do this because of this. I'm not curious about you. I know you, so I know why you're acting this way. Instead of, I'm not being curious, I'm being critical. So if I would look at you like I'm an investigator, like I'm trying to figure you out, like I want to know more about you, like a good investigator does. They don't assume things.
Yeah.
I love a good investigative show too.
We have spent a lot of time listening about people's crimes this summer.
Crazy Neighbors.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of Crazy Neighbor
A lot of 48 hours.
documentaries and things like that. But what would that look like of being an investigator instead of being a critic? So like, how would you do that? So imagine saying, here's a couple ways to think about that. Like, what if we ask the question, instead of saying, well, why are you like that when you do something? What if I said, well, what happened that made you that way? Like, what happened in your life that made you, not like, why are you the way that you are?
What happened to you?
What happened that made you that
So
way?
that
But
you would
maybe in the moment, the present moment, like what could have happened in your day that made you react that way? Versus like, oh, I know he's just always short, or she's just always, snippy, or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So being curious in that way, that's one example. Or like, instead of saying like, why are you always stressed? Or thinking to yourself, why are they always stressed? Why is my spouse always stressed? What you could ask instead is like, what pressure are they carrying right now? That causes them.
Isn't one of those, we did an episode about the 4 horsemen of divorce. Isn't criticism one of them? So that's like, that's just one of those kind of like precursors to divorce was this criticism. And I believe it, man. You get criticized enough and it's like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Or I certainly don't want to engage, emotionally or be vulnerable. But the curiosity piece is kind of an antidote to that. And maybe they're valid reasons, but instead of like the critic always saying, why are you the way you are? You've done this again and again and again yourself. What's the curiosity is the antidote to that, maybe.
Yeah. I read a study recently that it interviewed men who were divorced. And one of the things that they said is that they did not realize anything was wrong because they had stopped engaging with their spouse and they had stopped fighting. So they thought that meant everything was okay. Yeah. And so I say that because it's another question that comes up is that they're distant. Like, instead of thinking, well, they're distant, like, instead of thinking that, asking that to yourself, maybe ask, what are they protecting? Because I think sometimes when we're distant, we've stopped trying to connect with our spouse. Sometimes it could be that. Sometimes it could be our spouse has hurt us in a way, and so we're distancing ourselves as a way of self-protection. But then it could be something altogether different, that I'm struggling internally with something that I'm just either not really sure how to process out loud, or I'm afraid that if you know about it, that I might seem weak, or I might, you might not understand me, or that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of different reasons that we can be distant with each other. But instead of just thinking, well, they're just being distant, you could ask yourself the question, what are they carrying? What are they protecting right now? And I think that curiosity piece produces compassion. We become more compassionate when we really understand each other and what the other person is carrying. So
yeah. We're very different in that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, when you can be curious and you can keep asking me questions, but my real desire, like if I'm feeling pressure, My real desire is I want you to help alleviate some of this pressure. I don't want to talk about the pressure.
Right.
I want you to help me alleviate some of it.
Sure.
Or I don't want to talk about it more than I want it alleviated.
You don't need to process. You need to get it out of the way.
I can talk about it enough to let you know what it is.
Yeah.
But then what is our solution-based way forward for the pressure? And you're different.
I'm very different. And I would say this is very typical for men and women. Not obviously not always, but for the most part, a lot of people I've talked with, this is the way. The opposite is true for me. I definitely like it when, if there's something, I have a lot of pressure, I've got a lot on my to-do list, you take some things off the list. But really, the most important thing for me is that you understand the pressure that I'm feeling. And I feel like I'm not alone in it. I feel like there's somebody there wanting to engage in this with me and pursue me in this. And it's more person-centered, not action-centered. You're more concerned about me than you are alleviating the pressure. And so that can be a source of conflict, but a source of just missing each other as it relates to being a student. I may be studying for a science test when I really need to study for an English test.
And the verse that it's for both of us. It's not, and I really think, alleviating pressure is a valid thing to try and address.
Sure.
Being understood is a valid thing to try to address. But Proverbs 20, verse 5 says, the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but the one who has insight draws them out. So if you're just being presumptive about a person's heart, you're just kind of being shallow. The purposes of a heart are deep waters. You have to have insight and intent to draw it out. And when you draw it out, it's gonna be a massive paradigm shift. You're gonna learn something that you didn't know.
Right.
But taking the time to do it for both of us
Yeah.
is so important for our connection and for being a student of each other.
I would say, as a warning to people who would think to themselves, because this is something that I struggle with or can struggle with, using questions as a weapon to get an answer that I want, or to leading questions because I already assume something. Just because you're asking somebody questions doesn't mean you're asking good questions, and you're asking questions to let them really tell you how they're feeling. It might be that you're asking leading questions. So be careful that you're not just like, well, I know the motive behind this. I'm going to ask some questions so I can get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about.
Like those people in the Senate hearings that ask questions. Isn't it true that you stole billions of dollars from taxpayers? Isn't it true? Admit it. Say it right now.
Yeah. So anyway, we're working on, based on that verse, drawing each other out. So the question would be, okay, so I want to draw you out. So how do I do that? Because we are very different. You think differently than I do. I think differently than you do. And so we're different in how we go about that. So would you agree with that?
For the husbands, how do I draw you out? How do I draw my spouse out? How do I draw my wife out? I can tend to be a lot more literal and just concrete in how you are. I'll just, she said this in this way, she must be mad, or she did this for this, it must be this reason, you know what I mean? I'm probably in trouble. I can just real concrete about things like that. But the better way of drawing you out is doing a lot of more noticing, just like the investigator, like those, you love the show Psych, and he walks in the rooms and he notices the things that, if you haven't watched Psych, Heather can tell you all about it. It's a great show.
I would love to.
But it's about this guy who just walks in a room and he positions it like he's psychic, but he's not psychic.
Yeah.
That's sort of the show, but he looks around the room and he notices these very, very small little things that nobody else can see. And I think noticing the little small things about you, about Heather, that maybe not everybody else can see, but it's my job to get good at that. I can't make an excuse and say, well, I'm not psychic. Well, you're not, but everybody can lean into a little bit of noticing. Why are you stressed out? Is she stressed out? Is she tired? What could she be tired from? Is she lonely? Does she feel lonely? I can notice things and then I can ask you about them. How are you doing? What are you thinking about right now, given all these circumstances? Not sometimes, like what's on your mind? And that's just kind of an open-ended, like elevator kind
How
of
was your
question. You
day?
could ask
Yeah.
anybody that, but like,
Sure.
what's on your mind? Because I see all of these things that are going on around us. And I just, in light of those things, or in relationship to this stressful thing or this tiring thing or this, in light of those things, what's going on around you, like noticing. I know for a fact that if I notice, it's not like, oh, I noticed you got your hair cut, or I noticed this, like that's nice. But if I notice you a little bit more intentionally, that draws you out.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me feel seen, and it makes me feel that you're watching and you're curious and interested, and invested in it.
Yeah.
Invested in it. So a little bit different for you. I think for me, I can notice if you have pressure, like if there's something that's putting external pressure on you, or you're feeling the weight of responsibility for leading our family. I need to look and see, are there things around us? Sometimes that's financial. Sometimes it's calendar related. It's the pace at which we've been moving that can cause, external pressure or internal pressure for you. If you're not feeling respected by people around you, by me, by our kids, that kind of thing, I can notice that. Or just something that you might be carrying that you are not either wanting to or don't feel safe to or don't even realize you're carrying inside of you, And so some good questions for me as the wife to ask you is that, is there something that you're carrying that I don't see? Is there something that you're carrying that I don't see? Or maybe what's been like prevalent? What's been occupying your mind lately? What have you been thinking a lot about? Not like, what are you thinking about right now? But like, has there been something that's been consistently occupying your mind lately? And then how can I help lighten your load? A real practical thing for me that I've noticed about you is that if it's you respond really well to physical activity. And so if it's been a long time since you've been able to play disc golf or gotten a workout or something like that, I can feel that just in your emotional response. And so as a wife, I can encourage you, hey, you should play disc golf today. Why don't you go play disc golf? Or, let's go work out tomorrow or whatever, that kind of thing.
Or sometimes you could just suggest, would you like to do some physical activity?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's a connection point, and that's a whole nother episode. But that is an astute observation that I think a wife can make as it relates to calendaring your companionship, which,
put it on the books.
Right. Yeah. So we're not like saying like, okay, I'm just going to study so I can take notes and learn all about them. And sometimes I feel like I'm not looking at you as somebody I have to figure out. I'm looking at you as someone that I can enjoy. And when I know more about you and I know about who you are and the inner workings of you, I can enjoy you more. Versus like trying to dissect it and figure out all the different pieces.
Okay, so
of
we
it.
talked about a lot of this abstractly. I mentioned being concrete. What's the practical? How do you do this? How do you study your spouse? Because I'd say for a lot of guys, it's not lack of like desire to do it.
Sure.
It's just like, we talk about this all the time. I just don't think about it. It's not something that I've got a million other things going on. I would love to be a good provider. I would love to be a good dad. Like I got this long list of things that I really do want to. I want to be a good Christian. I want to be a good pastor. I want to be a good, faithful friend.
Yeah.
And I do need to study you. And so I don't want this to feel like it's a. Here's another like thing that you got to add to your list.
Sure.
That if you don't measure up, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
So what are we challenging people to do?
Right. It is the most unsexy thing that we're challenging them to do.
Yeah.
And it is this idea, we've talked about this before, but it's this idea of the apple a day keeps a doctor away, but you can't eat 7 apples on Sunday and be good for the week. So it has got to be.
You're going to be in trouble if you eat 7 apples.
You are going to be in big trouble for a lot of reasons.
You're going to be busy.
It's got to be daily connections, and they can just be small connection points. Ask one good question a day. It cannot be, what time do we have to pick up the kids because you think that will make her feel seen and heard. That is not the kind of question I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not what time are you going to get home, or what we're having for dinner, but what's something you've been thinking about or something that's occupied your thoughts lately? What's bringing you joy? It can be something simple. And it doesn't have to be this, we're going to sit down and have a 20-minute conversation about it. It can just be a quick touch point.
Anybody can ask one curious question a day.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a practical thing. For me, like, not only is it like noticing you, noticing patterns or noticing, seasons or something like that. It's writing some things down. For me, you are a gifts person.
Yeah.
I know that you like that. I am not a gifts person.
Right.
And I want to make you feel loved. I don't naturally think about loving you with your gifts, but what I do now on my phone is I keep a note of things that you say. It's very easy. I do not think twice about it anymore, but I just collect little things in my phone. I would like to have this, color of Post-it notes, which is great. I will write that down and then I will try to get it for you. I know that you like
I do like Post-it notes.
pink flowers in our living room.
Yes.
I know that. And so if I have an opportunity, to get pink flowers, it's not a grand gesture.
Yeah.
It's just something simple, but that has helped us, stay connected. But not only am I trying to notice it, I need to write it down in order to take
Sure.
an action on it.
Yep.
Or I'll
Right,
forget
right,
it.
right,
Or
right.
I won't think about it.
Sure. I didn't know you did that. That is so sweet. I love that so much. Here on the podcast, I'm discovering something new about you.
The note is called Gifts for Heb.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
You made an important point, though. You're not just watching patterns and looking for things that that speak to me. You are doing something about it,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so it's one thing to think about it. So you're kind of keeping. I would not say you're keeping a mental notebook. You're keeping an actual physical notebook.
Well, for me, that's kind of the way
Right.
that it works.
And it can be anything. Like maybe your spouse is not a gifts person, but it could be like they're a foodie. So favorite restaurants. I like to try this restaurant. And they do that, or
Yeah.
things that they say, prayer requests, dreams that they've talked about. Ask them about the dreams, things you want to follow up later on if something's going on. And then just connecting. We talked about, I said, ask a good question every day. Have a weekly check-in too. It could be, we had a great episode with Steve and Amber Alverson about, they called it Steak of the Union instead of State of the Union because they do steaks on Sunday nights, just the two of them after the kids go to bed. And it could be something like that, 20, 30 minutes, resetting for the week, not just from a physical standpoint of like, what's the schedule look like, but like, how are we doing? How are you doing? Anything you're holding against me this week? Anything we need to repair? I think that's really important because, man, that can put a divide in your marriage pretty quickly.
And that's one of those things that has I think we heard this from Jim Rohn like years and years ago, but lives rent free in my head. And it's from the business world, but I think it's powerful relationally as well. And it's just this little quote that says, "Random has no cumulative value." There isn't, even if we connect on our marriage kind of randomly, it doesn't accumulate into something meaningful. But if we kind of build some intention into it, it doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It just has to be consistent.
Yeah.
That is where growth starts to take place.
Yeah. Yep. So then last thing I want to say before we give you some real practical ways to do this, more practical ways, is just like date with purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be not just a dinner, you do something different. You go for a hike, you play mini golf together, you try something new together, you ask good questions. And so just keep discovering new things about each other. So yeah, we've got to make sure that we don't treat our marriage though, in a way that we get lax about how we're going about it and say, well, we've connected a ton this week, because there are weeks that we actually have connected, but it's not about us. It's about schedules. It's about school stuff. It's about sports. It's about practices. It's about meetings. It's about, we work together. It's about work, things around work, homework. And then our marriage is like at the end of the day, we plop into bed and be like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it's last. But we've got to be intentional about not doing that. And so doing that check-in, a weekly date that we're going to the movies tomorrow. I'm excited about that. We're going to go do a movie.
Very good.
Yes.
We're going to see the Odyssey.
We'll let you know. We'll check back and let you know how we liked it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So anyway, that marriage meeting, make sure you have like an extended thing once a month. Just more than just like a dinner out, an extended day.
Well, I mean, like these are some things. A 10-minute check-in every day, a weekly date, a monthly adventure, a quarterly overnight.
Yeah.
And then an annual getaway marriage retreat like you could go to the Weekend to Remember where Heather and I are speakers.
We are
And
partial, but we love Weekend to Remember.
Weekend to Remember is awesome. Now, any one of those things, if you just implemented one of them
Right.
as a part of a rhythm to protect your marriage, and it's like that, how can our marriage grow by 1%?
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, like we're on the brink of divorce, but like by next weekend, we're going to be, just as good as we're going to go from a 1 to a 10 in a weekend. It doesn't move like that. Every relationship, as dynamic and crazy as it can be, if there's something that you could say, all right, this is our 1% investment in our marriage over time. It might be the one meeting, 10 minutes a week. And that's your marriage check-in.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes. It's one time a week, but you protect it like a dog does a bone. Like this is so important. We're not letting go of this. That's that 1% kind of growth that builds a rhythm that protects your marriage.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that going back to our theme with being a good student is that if you got ready for class and you went to class and you didn't pay attention and you didn't do your homework and you didn't listen to the teacher and you didn't ask good questions, and then at the end of the semester, you're surprised that you failed the class.
How in the world did I fail?
I can't believe I thought just being present was enough. And that's oftentimes, I think, in marriage, what we think. I mean, we're together. We're here. We're doing stuff together. We're taking care of kids and paying bills and putting meals on the table. That's enough. And it's not enough. So we've got to learn to be a good student of our spouse.
All right, good students do their homework.
Yeah.
So here is some Carl and Heather present university homework.
University level.
These are upper level classes.
Yes, yes.
This is not just your basic
300s.
stuff. But homework for this week: pray for your spouse every day. This week, every day this week, pray for your spouse. One short, simple prayer. God, please help Heather. Please, and fill her up with your spirit today and help me to love her. Say a prayer. One, just pray for your spouse every day this week, and then ask your spouse one curious question every day this week. Just draw them out by 1% and make that investment in your relationship.
I love it. Well, hey, thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. Work on being a student of your spouse this week.
And have fun going back to school.
That's right. Together on purpose.
Together on purpose.